Welcome back to the Hip Hop Report. This is Rambo Hustle, and today we'll be discussing Lupe's Fiasco.
Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. If you want the latest and greatest, do it for the game.
Now, whenever a new topic comes up, specifically late at night, I usually let it slide. I usually wait until the next morning so I can see what kind of momentum it has when I wake up and see if it's worth, really tackling it. Unless I know it's gonna pop off. Then I'll kind of sit down, analyze it, and sit down here and, give you guys my 2 cents. Now, with this particular topic, I'll be honest, I've never been the hugest Lupe Fiasco fan. I respect his lyricism. I know he has great albums, The Cool, Food and Liquor. And obviously the guy has accomplished quite a bit, but I didn't really tune into him until he started doing the lessons at MIT and showcasing and teaching kids about the art and the skill set of writing songs, of rhyming, of putting words together. I found that to be not an incredible offering to the community and the world, but also a great service to hip hop in general. On top of it just being super interesting. If you haven't checked those lessons out, make sure you go to YouTube and check those out. Extremely smart guy. And honestly, it gives you a lot of business insight on songwriting and how to use words to make things better, to make things more universal, more catchy. And there's just a lot of little trinkets within those speeches that I think are very valuable. Now, as somebody who's done a lot of interviews throughout the years, I have unfortunately seen the industry and the concept of media and interview be bastardized by social media and influencers that thought they knew something about music because they listened to it. Unfortunately, because of that, we've had a much harder time nowadays actually doing interviews, setting up interviews. Artists don't want to talk to you. They don't want to be on camera. Why? Because social media has made it to where everybody is no longer trying to ask artists about the music and the art and the creation and the collaborations and what they're actually passionate about. All they're in search for is the viral moment. What's the topic? What's the question? What's the answer that I need to get from you to cause a reaction that will go viral and will skyrocket my followers, my viewership, and just my engagement overall? And of course, like anything else, the internet has taken this art form of media and interviewing and bastardized it to where it's no longer even really accessible unless you're a major media player. Back in the day, I could go to shows and I could just stick around long enough for the artist to just have to talk to me. Get a couple questions in, get them comfortable, kind of read a little body language and see if we could keep going and see where we can take it. That's where most of my interviews from the R Hustle Film channel come from. Everybody from MGK to Kendrick to even Prodigy from Mobb Deep, you name it, Danny Brown, they're all on there, 2 Chainz. And so I'm very proud of those interviews and all those conversations that we had, because to me, it really stamped a moment in time where interviews were sought after, where people wanted to hear from these artists, and these artists wanted to talk to media people because they knew the potential of having a good conversation in a media outlet that was going to respect the art form. Unfortunately now, not everyone respects the art form, which obviously we've come to find out the hard way. But fortunately for us, we do have somebody like Culture United that sits down and brings in different people from around the world and from different walks of life to talk amongst themselves, and sometimes to have a guest like Lupe Fiasco did tonight, and sit down with them and really discuss the music, the business, the art, in a respectful manner. Now, before I get to that, I will say that the conversation actually started for me when I woke up and Django decided that he was going to try to feed the fire by suggesting that
if I was Lupe Fiasco, I would hate Kendrick Lamar too.
You already hate Kendrick, fool. When in reality, I knew that Lupe never has hated Kendrick.
Out of the many, there's only one guy that I am a fan of, that I think deserves this award. So the next big thing award goes to my big homie Kendrick Lamar.
So then the question becomes, how does one go from that to yesterday? I would have maybe been lost and not really been able to give you a direct answer. I think now, after the backlash, after the Culture United interview and everything that's transpired, I think I have a pretty good answer of what happened. It's generational. Unfortunately, Lupe came out at a time when hip hop just wasn't very accepting of the concept of the conscious rapper. And then the conscious rapper wasn't accepting of the idea of how to get their message across in a commercially viable way. And so to me, I've always said this, and I've said this on this page many times, is that Kendrick's superpower is the ability to not sacrifice and throw away his message to make better music. He puts his message and is creative enough to put it on production that is universally consumable, on records that slap, even though he's talking about some legitimately viable and important things. I mean, who else makes a record like Swimming Pools that tackles the concept of alcoholism while still giving you your lead single? A lot of people don't talk about this, but that's an incredibly risky thing for a brand new artist to do. Brand new artist coming from Compton, where it's traditionally gangster music and gangster culture, and you're gonna come out with a record that puts at the forefront alcoholism and how that affected you in your life. It was literally what spearheaded his entire career to make other records. You know, the concept of pour up, drink was in every college town, and people were partying to it, even though that record was incredibly socially conscious. And Kendrick has again and again and again done that while giving you still his message and never losing track of what his goal with his music, his message, and his brand has been. Now, with that being said, and that's Culture United's interview with Lupe Fiasco, which is why I didn't make a video last night and why I didn't make a video earlier today, because I knew this was happening. And I said, let me tap into this, and then it'll give me more perspective on where Lupe is at, because he was going to be a guest on the show, which I think is incredible. And I think is something that Justin Hunt over at The Company Man has to do more of, is get real-time sit-downs and features and appearances from artists as the topics are happening. Because I think once you do that, you're able to get ahead of the topic and allow yourself to get a true receipt from a true voice that is truly in the game, and not just some kid from buttfuck Egypt that just like listened to the album and is mad because they name drop his favorite artist. Now, with that being said, the interview in itself, I think for most fans was disappointing. And yes, it was disappointing because every attempt that the panel made to address what he said about Kendrick was sidestepped by Lupe. Lupe didn't want to do that, and he even opened the conversation saying, I feel completely different now than I did 24 to 48 hours ago. That's convenient, because I think the biggest and most disappointing thing is the fact that we just never expected Lupe to be this person. We would always assume that Lupe was a respectful stand-up guy that championed the culture and wouldn't do things for just clicks. Now, he's gonna try to hide behind, oh, I've already made my money, I've already made my moves. Then why even go on this channel and say something about Kendrick that you know people are going to take in a certain way? We are way too grown to be saying left field and backhanded compliments to people, or even direct insults about people, and then act like we didn't know that this was going to happen. Oh my God, people are in outrage. But it's like, nah, fam, like you knew what you were saying. You knew how people were going to react to it. And if there's some resentment, maybe you need to look inside yourself to see, hey, maybe it's me. Maybe it's not Kendrick. Why are you attacking Kendrick? Because of your own shortcomings. Now, don't get me wrong. And first and foremost, before we even go into that whole, I wanna salute the Culture United team, because they did a great job of digging where they wanted to dig, and then stepping back when the artist obviously wasn't walking with them into that conversation. You know, I think two or three of the different panelists, brought up questions and topics that were leading him into that conversation about what he said about Kendrick. And he kind of just gave us a food salad or a word salad and just like mumbled jumbled all the way through to where he could just sidestep that question altogether. And then he just we went back into nothingness. And, you could tell in the chat that they were all very disappointed because of this. But like I said, there was a point where people loved interviews because we respected the artist. And that's something that when I watched the Koala Reacts channel and his conversation with Lupe, he was not respecting Lupe as if he was Lupe. He was treating Lupe as if he was on the same playing field as him, which is the danger of superstars sitting down and talking to people that have no business ethics whatsoever. One of my first interactions with Django, for example, I messaged him DM, right? So this is this is a private conversation between me and you, letting him know, hey man, the reason I'm going hard isn't because for no reason. Like I worked with Kendrick, I did all this work with him, blah, 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 blah. Next thing I know, I wake up the next morning and my conversation from his DMs is screenshotted and he's making a whole video. This is like 7 a.m. This guy's waking up making videos about my DMs, which look, I don't give a shit because I'm not hiding behind a screen. I'm not hiding behind anything I say. It is what it is. But it let me know, oh, this guy's not playing within the industry. He's playing for his emotions. He wants to make a point because he doesn't care about the art or the culture or the business. All he cares about is championing and protecting the artists he loves at any cost. Because who shares another grown man's private messages that that was me going behind the industry and talking to you man to man about my intentions. We could have built an entirely different thing, but now it's war and I'm on your neck forever because every video that you make, my friend, is about Drake, even if you never mention Drake. And we've seen that time and time and time again. I would even argue that his Wale song for song review was only created because he spent the last 2 months doing a song by song by song by song of 43 records of Drake plus some. So, you know, you're not fooling me like nobody else is fooling the fans. You know what I mean? So for me, I think Culture United did a great job. Justin, of course, did a great job of mediating the conversation. But me personally, I didn't like it. I didn't like Lupe's energy. I didn't like how dismissive he was about the fact that you said some left field shit about Kendrick and now we want you to talk about it and now you're not comfortable talking about it and you feel different and like, oh, I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna give you a dissertation about a 15-minute answer that you didn't ask for to avoid answering the one question that you did ask. You're a grown ass man, bro. If you said some shit, stand by it. And don't sit here and tell us, I mean, whatever. I guess if that's the truth, if you said that just to create a moment for that guy, sure, but don't ask me to respect you for it. And honestly, I understand, Lupe, like, I get it. Like, every time you drop something or people talk to you or they bring up Kendrick, they say, oh, Kendrick is what you were supposed to be. Personally, as an artist, as a creative, as anybody that's passionate about what they do, that statement fucking hurts. And I can understand how Lupe feels being told something like that. But personally, after seeing this interview, I don't think Lupe was the first coming of Kendrick. You ask me, J. Cole is what Lupe could have been. A guy that was super lyrical, super conscious, super creative, but just didn't like the limelight.
I want to smoke in public, so I gave him smoke in public.
Really cared to be in it. Didn't want to do with the politics, didn't want to deal with the system. He didn't want to be in that game. He just wanted to make his art and do it his way and leave it on the table. And, you know, unfortunately, like a lot of artists will tell you and they will admit or maybe not admit, it's very easy in this industry without selling 20 million records, without having a deal with even people that have never seen success at all can get jaded and scorned by an industry because, you know, they feel like their art is great. They feel like they're telling their story, they're investing, they're directing, they're writing, they're producing, they're doing all of these things. And it just seems like the needle's not moving for them. And, you know, there's so many reasons why that could happen. But at the end of the day, one result is for sure going to be consistent. And that's that any artist that's in that situation and invested years and years and years into their life, myself included, can become jaded and scorned by the concept of an industry not accepting, not celebrating, and not championing them. And I think that's what happened with Lupe. I mean, Lupe had hit records. Lupe was incredibly lyrical and clearly could make a song if he wanted to. But like J. Cole, fought the concept of making the record, of making those records, of wanting to be what he was supposed to be if you want to be the best by the industry standards. Now, if you want to be the best just lyrically, then go for it, bro. Like, fucking have a ball, And honestly, I think if anything, the question that we all want to know is, why did you say what you said about Kendrick? I would say that's the same thing that Django does, the same thing he did here, where suddenly he's Lupe's #1 fan because he went at Kendrick and Kendrick went at Drake. And so he's going to side with anyone that is against Kendrick because that's his guy, Drake's his guy. And so he's going to just hold on to his nuts as long as he can to say, oh, look, another person that feels like we feel. So it just is what it is, bro. Like, you got to do something you love. And most people are not doing something they love. And those that have, if they weren't able to find, the monetary success and generate the lifestyle that they wanted, maybe they don't love it anymore. And that's why they're jaded and scorned by the concept of having to do it, because it didn't really pan out the way they wanted to. So with that being said, Lupe, I wish you the best. I hope that you, like you said, we're not going to hear from you for a long time. I hope that's true. And if it's not, let's get that collaboration, because honestly, even when I was at this BET show, and honestly, I cut out the fan reaction because I just felt like it was going to drag the video out too long. And I wanted to get to the point where, Lupe says, I respect this guy. I'm a fan. He's the future. These are the important things that let you know that this take is bullshit. And that it was only created to uplift Lupe and to downplay Kendrick for the sake of championing Drake, unfortunately. And that, my friend, is why media is no longer respected or championed. That's why we need more Culture Uniteds and less Djangos. More Justin Hunts and less, what the fuck is this guy's name? Whatever, the reaction guy. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, react to whatever you want, but show respect.